What's going on, Commanders fans? You are tuning into the Raise Hail Report, episode 6, with your host, RaiseHail. I got a special guest with me today, man. Lake Lewis Jr. How you feeling today?
What's going on, Rail? How you been, man?
I've been good, man. Long time no see. Man. It's good to have you on the show. If you are tuning in, please like, subscribe, and comment. We are on the road to 200 subscribers. Um, I like to start my shows off, especially with first time people that I have on the show, with some memories. So if you can give me one good memory, preferably not from last season, because we know that was one of the best seasons in a lot of people's lifetimes. But if you can give me one of your favorite Commanders memories as a fan or as an insider of the team, go ahead and give me one of your favorite ones.
I mean, there's a couple that jump out. I'm gonna go before I was in the media, so I'll go when I was much younger, and I'm old enough to remember the good old days. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go the NFC Championship game. Um, I just will never forget Daryl Grant, getting the tip pass and running it in the end zone to basically put the game away against the Cowboys at RFK. And
Mhm.
talking about pandemonium in my house, because the irony is my father was a Cowboys fan.
Mm.
So my mother used to make us watch the games in different rooms because it would get um,
Yes.
for coming out the room and taunting them and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'll never forget that moment.
Yeah, man. I don't know why, but actually, I do kind of know why. But a lot of people from the DMV area, they're also Cowboys fans. I grew up, my older brother, he was a diehard Cowboys fan. We never watched the games together. So I definitely understand that. From my point of view, that goes a little bit far back from before I was born. So I don't remember that moment. But but one of my most favorite moments that I like to talk about is the game after Sean Taylor died and Clinton Portis, he scored that. I think we lost that game, but he scored a touchdown and he lifted up his shirt and he had the 21 on it, and I was right there in the corner of the end zone. That was my first game I've ever been to.
Oh wow,
Man, that's one of the games that's like sketched in the brain, my memory bank that I always go back to. So
that was that
yeah,
was an emotional game for
it
everybody.
was.
So somber, atmosphere and everything. So that was the game that they ran out. They only had 10 players on defense, and Reed Darty, you know,
Yep,
waited
I
on the
remember.
Greg Williams. So yeah, I remember that as well. So yeah, that's a tough one, but definitely something that I'm sure you'll never forget.
Definitely won't. I also want to ask you, like, what got you into, doing what you do, covering the team and doing the great work that you do? What motivated you to go down this path?
Man, we probably don't have enough time on this show to tell you how I got to the NFL, but I was a broadcast journalism major in college at Penn State, and
Mhm.
I played ball, but I also was the student sports director for the WPSU radio station, and
Okay.
Penn State football games, as play by play for the student station, and after school, I came back home, ended up going to Georgetown, and the irony is that I was a double major. I was broadcast journalism pre-med major. So for Georgetown, I got in their post bachelorette pre-med program, and
Hmm.
did it for a year and a half, and was like, this isn't for me. It was like, this is just
Yeah.
different kind of you need for that. So went back into communications and broadcasting, and ended up getting a job working at Ravens Radio, ironically, being radio in Baltimore. Then an opening came up in Orlando for an ESPN radio station, and I got the job offered to me right on the spot there. Moved to Orlando, and I was a drive time radio host in Orlando. Did the show for almost 8 years, and
Mm.
just started coming back and forth doing shows with players all over the East Coast, and a couple of them were football players, and a couple of them happened to be Redskins, and I end up, would come out to practices and things like that, and at the time, one of the PR guys or president of the team, Tony Wiley at the time, gave me a credential to come out and cover the team, and did that, and then I got it with the Ravens. I was covering them jointly, and then the Ravens told me, hey, I couldn't do that. Couldn't cover both teams. They obviously they weren't down with the Dan Snyder era at all. So
Yeah.
decision. So I picked Washington because that's where I'm from. I'm from Northeast DC. So I was just like,
Hmm.
go ahead and do this, and here we are. This is my 17th season. 17 seasons later. But I'm back doing radio again. I'm obviously doing television. That's my main thing now. But covering this team is it's been great. And then to be able to experience last season, that was a first for me. I'm used to covering losing teams here. And every now and then they would make a wild card team, make a wild card appearance, and they would lose that. But to be able to be in Philadelphia, I know they lost, in the NFC Championship game, but to be there for that, knowing that this team had a rookie quarterback and that they're going to have a chance to get back there, just made it all much the better. And, I'm really excited for this year now.
Yeah. And just to draw some similarities to your situation, I went to Bowling Green State University in Ohio.
Oh,
I initially went for sports broadcasting, but I ended up changing my major and getting my major in recording technology because I also create music. I sing, I make beats, I do engineering as well. And I'm kind of coming back to it now, a little bit because we actually have a good team now. So that kind of inspired me to do something that I always loved to do and always wanted to do. So also, I just want to say, continue to do what you do, Lake. You do an amazing job. I always tune into your show, always follow your content, man. You do an amazing job following the team. So also just want to go ahead and give you your flowers on that as well.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. Today was one of those days too, man. I was just talking to my better half about it. I had some folks come for me today. They were like, "Oh, you a Terry hater and you killing Terry?" Like,
Oh
really?
man.
I don't think that's the case. But one thing
Right.
business is, I don't know if people think because I'm there every day and I know the guys that I'm not supposed to be able to say if I don't care for something or not.
Hmm.
Well, that's not how I am. My thing
Right.
is I have an opinion. I don't you know me, you know my style. My style is not to attack anyone. But it's to tell the truth. And if people don't like some of the things you say, just know it's the truth. And if you don't like
Yeah.
it on you, that's not on me.
And that's the important thing as us fans. We just want the real. We don't want the sugar coating. And a lot of times, I know your position, following the team and stuff like that. You guys have an obligation sometimes to make the team look good, and we understand that. But as fans, we just really want the real, and I think you do a great job of that. And speaking of Terry, um, obviously, he just got an extension, worth up to 96 mil, which is 32 a year, 3 years. And you have said many times, he was and you think he would get somewhere in that range. I think you mentioned multiple times 32, 33 a year. So you were correct on that. Um, for me, I don't really look at it as what side won. I understand that
Thank you.
both sides had so yeah, both sides had to sacrifice something to get where we are now. How do you look at it in that way? Do you think somebody had necessarily a side one, or do you think they both had to sacrifice?
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, this is real talk here, and I appreciate you saying that. Because I said that on my show today. I don't like the whole people were saying I was pro Adam, that
Hmm.
I'm not employed by the Commanders.
Right.
I cover them. I'm employed by my outlets, but I'm not employed by the Commanders. But I've said this all along. I have the utmost respect for Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, organization, the way they are being ran now, because I've seen the other side of it and I've dealt with bad things on the other side. So with that said, I didn't think this was ever about disrespecting Terry. I thought all along this was about trying to come to a common ground for both parties. They
Hmm.
said on numerous occasions they knew what they had in Terry. They knew what type of person he was. But I think to some of the fans were like, "Well, you pay Terry whatever you have to pay him. If you have to pay him 40 million, you pay him 40 million. You can't do that. That's not
Hmm.
not good business, and it has
Hmm.
nothing to do with how you feel about Terry. because let's face it, he's one of the nicest humans you're going to ever meet. And you know me, I've always said this.
Mhm.
He's a class act, but you had a business to run, and they needed to meet at a common ground. And I think for Terry to get 32, I think that's a good thing. And I think Washington came up to get to that number. So they both,
Mhm.
maybe it wasn't what he was seeking originally, but it's still a great contract, and it's a team friendly contract. It's a contract where you're most dynamic personality outside of Jaden, because I think we all agree now that this is Jaden's team because he's the quarterback and he's the star. But from a heartbeat, it's still Terry's football team, and
Right.
for them to be able to get him a good number, a really good number that shows his value to them as well, I think it's just a win-win for everyone. And my thing. I just want to talk football, man.
Right.
Politics and whose side are you on? I'm not on anybody's side. I'm on team.
Mhm.
I'm on team Family Lewis. That's my
Yeah.
side. But to all the fans out there, it's done. You don't have to look at Adam Peters as the bad guy. You don't have to look at Terry as being greedy or anything like that. I say that I thought he was asking for too much originally, because I thought he was, but
Mhm.
most agents are always going to ask at the high end, and most teams are always going to lowball. That's just the way business is done. And one goes like this, the other goes like this, and then they finally come here and they meet and get the deal done. And that's what happened.
You are exactly right. I also just thought it was so hilarious how, because I just sat back and kind of took it all in, how our fan base was picking sides.
They
Like
were
we didn't have to pick sides. Like most of us already knew this deal was going to get done some way or another. We all knew Terry was going to play this season, but it was just crazy how like our fans started to, not all the way, but a lot of our fans started to fold. They started to either side with AP or they started to side with Terry. And I'm like, this is business. This is what happens. Terry has to do what he has to do to get paid. AP has to do what's best, what's in the best interest of the team. And when you understand that, they're going to come to a deal. So that was the hardest thing from my end, is that just to see the fan base try to pick sides.
That's a great.
Um,
I wrote an article almost 2 months ago, and it's called "The Price of Loyalty," the cost
mm,
of. And I said in that article, Adam Peters has to get Terry signed, because this is his first major test as the GM of this team from a fan's perspective. How the fans look at him.
mm,
And I also said, but they also have to understand too that this is a new regime. This
yeah,
regime doesn't owe Terry anything. Um,
facts.
Not one of their guys as far as a draft pick. He's one of their guys as far as the morality of who he is and what he means. But you understand, I mean, from a draft pick standpoint, and if you look, all those guys have pretty much been removed except for him and Sam Cosme. So I just think that it's important for people to understand that that was the problem with this organization for the longest time. It was so toxic, and it did divide people. It divided loyalties as far as who was your favorite player, who should be the starting quarterback, and all those things. And last year was the first time that I think a younger generation like yourself ever experienced competency, like something tangible and real. And then Terry thing comes up, and it brought back a lot of bad memories for a lot of older folks like myself. Like, here we go. We don't need.
Mm,
So that's what I was speaking out against. Like, not against Terry as a person. That's my guy. Are you
yeah.
kidding? but just from the nuances of doing business, and to the fans who still don't understand that, you're never going to get it if you don't get it now.
Right, right, and it was just a hard situation everywhere you looked at it, because a lot of us thought it would have been done by now. Do you think this will, him missing out training camp? Do you think he's going to start the season a little slow or anything like that?
No, not at all. Because I know, I mean, there's two types of shapes. There's great shape, and he's in great shape. And then
Hmm.
there's great football shape. So maybe he's not necessarily in great football shape, but he's still in really good football shape. And a really good Terry in football shape is better than most in great football shape. So I think he's going to be fine. And I said this earlier, the beauty of this year for Terry is he's got somebody on the other side of him that can kind of alleviate things for him. And he's also got a rookie that's really dynamic in Jalen Lane that's going to their wide receiver room too. So they'll be able to do some things that they weren't able to do in the past where maybe Terry was the only one capable of doing them. Well, now they have some other guys that are going to help Terry's game as much as him being out there. He's going to help their games too.
Got you. I also wanted to get your take on Brian Robinson Jr. He was obviously traded to the 49ers for a 6th-round pick. And you following the team, because for me personally, I didn't see this coming. Not now. And I also thought that at the end of the season, I didn't think they were probably not going to bring him back. But I thought they would at least give him this season because of what he brings. I didn't think any other running backs in the room brought what Brian Robinson Jr. Brings, but obviously they thought different. Did you see this coming at all? Like, did you, when this news came out, or days before the news came out when they were shopping him around, did you see any signs of this coming into fruition?
I think there's some layers to this, truthfully. And I think that the money that they saved by trading him, they're still on the hook for a little bit of his contract now. So they're still Fran, ironically, a little bit of money, but they still saved almost $2 million.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind that $2 million helped go to Terry.
Okay.
So I do think some of this goes hand in cheek here, goes hand in hand. And I think that we didn't see it coming, but we're not surprised because there were some things that, you can't really delve into here, but there were some things just from a cultural standpoint, culture in the building, things like that sometimes people that's not them. And I think one thing that I can certainly assure people of, when you see them pay this kind of money for Terry, when you saw them re-up Sam last year, Cosme, that tells you that those guys fit what they look for, what they want, what it is to be a commander. And if you don't really fit it, they're going to move you out of there. And I think ultimately, I don't think it was from a football standpoint that Brian ended up being traded.
I mean, after thinking about it, after it's done, it does kind of make sense. If you were going to release them anyways at the end of the season, why not get something back for them and see what you got in your young running backs, right?
Absolutely. And they about that. I mean, that's the other part of the equation. They like what they have. They like the fact that Bill Krosky-Merritt is more of that home run threat, that can turn yards for you dynamically, and they like where Chris Rodriguez has taken his game. He's re-sculpted his body, lost weight, got stronger, got quicker, and he's a physical runner too. So they feel like between those two young guys, to learn from the vets and an Austin Eckler and a Jeremy McNichol, I think they feel like, between the four of those guys, that the four of them can encompass one special back as a whole. And that's how they're going to do it. So who's asking, is Bill Krosky-Merritt the featured back? They don't have a featured back, at least not yet. I think the goal is for him to be, but that's not going to happen in week one. They're going to be running by committee.
And I agree, definitely by committee. I also wanted to talk to you about the 53-man roster that was released today. I wanted to get your take on it. Did any of those players that made the team surprise you at all? Were there any surprises that made the team that maybe you didn't think would make the team?
I probably would say Josh Johnson, because
same here.
Because I could see them just going with two and having Josh maybe on the practice squad. I wasn't surprised that Sam was released, but I'm not going to be surprised if Sam is picked back up and put on the practice squad. So I'm sure that's what's going to happen. So with that said, Josh Johnson kind of stood out to me. And then the other thing is the fact that they only kept 5 receivers, which from my experiences, it tells me that they're going to go out and get another receiver via, the waiver wire or via trade, so, there could be a trade that happens for a receiver that may have some ties to the front office,
Mm, okay. Okay. You dropping little hints and everything. Okay, I got it. So with that being said, there was news that came out that Noah I was being shopped as well.
Mhm.
Um, I personally like Noah. I like our whole cornerback room. I think from top to bottom, it's great. I think we should keep him honestly because
Me
if
too.
anything goes with Marshawn Lattimore, if he start having those hamstring injuries again or anything, maybe Trey Amos, whatever happens, I think Noah I is a great player. We can just plug and play. He's been in the system from last season. He can come in and play again and play solid like he did last season. Um, if we were to trade him, do you think that will hurt our cornerback room? Or do you think the other four guys we have are enough?
No, they're those four as solid as you can get. I mean, you've got a Pro Bowler who looks back in form. You've got
Mhm.
two future Pro Bowlers in Mikey and Trey.
Yeah.
And then Jonathan Jones is probably one of the most steady veterans you can ever get. And he comes from that pedigree from New England, so he's bringing a winning pedigree with him. You can't get better than those four. You just can't. Um,
Okay.
Understand why if they're doing that, if it is true as far as Noah shopping him, if that's the case, maybe you shop him for that sixth receiver that you don't currently have, and that's why I'm saying, like, you look around and you think of some guys that could be available. There's a guy in New England that could be available that has some
Mm.
ties to the 49ers and Kendrick Bourne. That might be something. That's just me saying it, so I don't want
Yeah.
anyone that's happening. I'm just thinking hypothetically, if you were to shop him around, what are you shopping him around for? Another corner? Because that would be silly because he's
Yeah.
good at the corner already. So it's got to be for a position of need, I would think.
Yeah. And Noah I is going into a contract year, so he it would benefit him as well. I'm pretty sure he's looking for a change of scenery just to show off, play maybe somewhere he can play a little bit more.
100%.
Um and get another contract after this season. Um Also talking about the 53 man roster, were there some surprise I know you said Josh Johnson was a surprise player who made the team. Were there
Mhm.
any surprise players that you thought got cut from the team?
Yeah, since we're talking about those receivers and they only kept five, I thought Ja'Cory Brooks was going to be their sixth receiver.
Okay.
Uh, he flashed at times in camp and in mini camp and in rookie mini camp. And even in the preseason games, he flashed at times. But I just, again, I was surprised by that because I know that they like the kid. He's clearly going to be on their practice squad if he clears waivers for that, because I think some other teams might look at him. 6'3"
Mhm.
pound guys just don't fall out of the sky. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I mean, I think that was a surprise for me. Um, Maybe Cleveland Farrell. I think
Mhm.
I know they liked him a lot. He was a guy that they really liked his run defense. Like, he could establish an edge for them, but he was always hurt. And he was
Right.
and in camp. So those are the type of things right there where you wonder. I could see him being put on the practice squad. I mean, the practice squad nowadays is not like the practice squad of years ago, where if you got on the practice squad, you never heard from those guys ever. You didn't even know they were on the team. No, the practice squads now, I mean, it's the rosters are up to 70 people from 53 once you
Mhm.
practice squad guys in there. So those 17 guys are very important because at any time, because of injury, they could come up. Those are guys that know your system inside out, because most of them, maybe you bring in 4 or 5 new faces from outside, but most of the guys on your practice squad have already been through your camps, and some of
Mhm.
them are on the. You look at a guy like Cole Turner, who was released. Is there a chance that he comes back and he's on the practice squad again for like a third year? Maybe. But that's
Mhm.
with your system, and so that's where that's going now. Just because you're in the practice squad, it's not a bad word anymore.
Right, right. And I agree. Cleveland Farrell was a surprise. I do agree that he has been injured. But I did think he was on a bubble. But it was between him and Javante John Baptiste, just because he's also been injured this preseason as well. So I think that was interesting to see those two.
Yeah, that was one of their draft picks, though. And
Yeah.
that's the nature of the business. If people say, so why does it matter if you're their draft pick if somebody's outperforming you? Well, it's because they spent a year or two scouting you when you were in college. So they know you, they know everything about you. Then when they bring you in, they know your weaknesses and how you can get better. And most organizations feel like they're the organization is going to bring the best up out of you. So he flashes at times. So you can see
Mm-hmm.
why they like him. Javante, we're talking about. You can see why they like him, but they're going to need for him to do it. But a young guy like that, look at it this way. Rel, you can say, oh, well, he's just going to be on the practice squad, but he's going to be learning from an edge rusher like a Von Miller. He's going
Mm-hmm.
to Dorrance Armstrong, a Javon Kinlaw. These are guys that are the ultimate pros, professionals. So, first ballot Hall of Famer is teaching you something. Those are things you should be able to retain. So it's like a coach in the building and then a coach on the field for you. Those things can help some young players really see the game differently.
Got you. And as a fan, I'm glad that this is what they did, because I want to see I think he played well towards the Javante John Baptiste I'm talking about. I think he played well towards the end of the season last season. So I'm glad that they kept him older than an older veteran guy than Cleveland Farrell. But I think our D line and our defense in general is much more deeper than last year. I think this is one of the harder 53-man cuts I says that I've ever went through as a fan. So I think we got it mostly right.
Yeah.
Um, to finish up, because I know you got to get up out of here. I was listening to your show earlier, and you were talking about a great topic that I wanted to discuss real quick.
Mhm.
Um, was the expectations of this team this year.
Mhm.
And what would how I was thinking about it is, I, as a fan, as me looking at the team, I think the expectations is different from like what we expect them to do and the success of the team. Like, I'm expecting them now to make a Super Bowl run this season, right? But if they don't, I don't think it's an unsuccessful year. I think a successful year for me is maybe winning a playoff game. We get to the playoffs and we win a playoff game, I think that's still a successful year. But if we don't make it to, I expect us to make it to the Super Bowl, but if we don't get it, I still think that doesn't necessarily make it an unsuccessful season. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what are your expectations for the team, and do you agree that, like, a successful season doesn't necessarily have to be a Super Bowl appearance?
Yeah, I mean, there's layers to a successful season. Like naturally, you don't want to backpedal into the playoffs and need help. Then because you probably we probably will already be talking about why things weren't happening and clicking.
Yeah.
So let's just say they get into the playoffs and they have a run like Detroit did. Remember Detroit lost that game to the 49ers in the playoffs,
Hmm.
should have won. And what did they do? People were wondering if it was going to just take the morale away from that team. Well, the following year they go on this 15-3 run, you know,
Right.
um, 15-2 run. So, you think about that and you say, but they lost in the playoffs. They lost their first divisional game to Washington, ironically, at home. That's a failure. There no way to get around that. Regardless of the injuries that they had, they lost at home to a team that they were favored to beat, regardless of
Right.
that's a failure. So if you're Washington and you ask me what is a failure, I'm going to tell you a failure for me would be if they got in as a wild card and had a home game and lost. That would be.
Mm.
Now, for me, I agree with you. Winning a playoff game means it's a successful season. Someone wrote to me today and said that they just think that if they make the playoffs, it's a success because it'll be the first time in 30 years they went to back-to-back playoffs. So that's fair. But I just think from what I see every day and cover, this team's loaded, man. I know fans don't like me saying it, but you remember last year I said this team's capable of winning 11 games.
Yes,
This team now is
definitely.
so much better. And now that Terry's back, they're so much better than last year's team at this same stage right now, in August 25th. They're better. 26th, they're better than the team from last year at this same date. If they played each other, this team would beat the stuffing out of that team. So,
Yes, I
so
agree.
that's what I'm saying. Like, so because they're better, last year's team gutted it out, got to the NFC Championship. Yes, they had miracles along the way. We understand that. But I'm starting to think that's the DNA of the football team because they have a young gun at quarterback who's an elite player in this league. And as long as you have one of those guys at that position, every Sunday you go into that game thinking you can win the football game. And Washington should be favored to win a lot of the games they play because of number 5. That's why I'm saying, for me, a playoff win um, would be the cutoff for me. If you make the playoffs and lose the first game,
Mhm.
that's not a successful season to me. But if you make the playoffs and you win a game, whether it's a wild card or a divisional game,
Mhm.
that's success to me.
Yeah, and to reiterate what you said, I think it's just our DNA that we just have a clutch gene. Something about this team is not. I know there's a lot of people talking about we had a lot of luck last season. I don't think it was luck, man. I think we just clutch. We have a quarterback who, in the fourth quarter, when the game is on the line, knows how to win. He just does everything to get us to the dub, and it's not just him. I think our coaching staff, the people that we have in the building, all the players that we have on the team, we are built for those moments. And Dan Quinn, he does it every day at practice. He puts us in the red zone. He puts us in those positions where the winning talks about it all the time. Those winning time moments. It doesn't just happen overnight. This team is built for them. So they practice it all the time.
And they practice, like I tell people all the time too, maybe haven't seen the results as much as you want to see with the kicking game, but they practice
Yeah.
that a lot, and kickoff coverage and things like that. So when Dan gets upset about the special teams breakdown or whatever, that's a real thing, man, because they put so much time and effort and energy into it. So all the little nuances that you need to win a game in the NFL, this team goes over it and they cover it. And you're right. No one says that about the Chiefs. They don't blow people out. They eke wins out. They squeak them out, but they win and they do it a lot. So
Mhm.
I think Washington's kind of taken on that kind of personality.
I definitely agree. Well, Lake, I know you got to get up out of here, man. I appreciate you for stopping by the show. Tell everybody where they can find you on all the socials, everything you got going on, man.
Oh man, just try to stay busy, brother. You can check me out on social media, Lake Lewis Jr. on all platforms. You can subscribe to my show, which is a radio show as well. You can hear the radio show on WOL in DC, and on 95.9 FM. It's a Radio One station, and we'll be picking that back up over the next week or two. You can subscribe to the show on all your major podcast carriers. You can watch it and subscribe to it on YouTube on the Lake Lewis Jr. Show channel. And then as far as my other media work, I'm NFL insider for CBS 6 television in Richmond. Do stuff obviously with ABC 7 back up in DC. Starting September 9th, I'll be on the ESPN radio for a weekly segment.
Okay.
And then I write for heavy.com as senior NFL writer. So yeah, man, I just try to keep busy, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Stay busy, man. Everybody tuning in, please like, subscribe, comment, turn on that notification bar. Appreciate you again, Lake, for coming out, man. Y'all
Right.
enjoy the rest of y'all night.
Okay,
Peace
appreciate
out.
you.